Have you ever played a game and wondered why it hasn't sold millions of copies, spawned dozens of sequels, and created hordes of passionate fans? Gravity Rush 2 is just that type of game, so let's talk about it. I'm Adam Scott, and this is Gravity Rush 2. Gravity Rush 2, known as Gravity Days 2 in Japan, was developed by Japan Studios Team Gravity, published by Sony, and released in 2017. It's the follow-up to the wildly inventive Gravity Rush, a new IP that cultivated a passionate but small fanbase due to its Vita exclusivity. Gravity Rush 2 aims to not only attract a wider audience on the PS4, but expand on the promise of the first game, an original story and world with floating cities, strange creatures, and charming characters brought to life by the inspired gravity mechanics, opening up new and unique traversal and combat. It was truly fresh and special, but somewhat underdeveloped. The original story of Kat, the Eternal Optimist and Gravity Wielder, demanded a sequel after its cliffhanger ending. Gravity Rush 2 improved and expanded in nearly every way, while preserving what made the original so special, and now on a big boy console was poised to be the catalyst for a long-running franchise. Or was it? The first game ended with our hero Kat and her friend Sid being whisked away by a gravity storm that hit the floating city of Hexville. Gravity Rush 2 opens after this event, where Kat and Sid arrive in the impoverished Banga village. Are we missing something? I don't know. How? Apparently yes. There's actually an anime titled Gravity Rush: The Animation Overture that creates a narrative bridge between the two games. Both parts are available on YouTube for free. It's only about 20 minutes long and well worth a watch. I've linked to it in the description. Through this ordeal, Kat was separated from her cat, Dusty, which is the source of her mysterious gravity powers. So, in this opening section, you're powerless. But I'm powerless in real life, so let me just tell you, if you have the choice between gravity powers or no gravity powers, you pick gravity powers every time. And thankfully, you're reunited with Dusty and your powers soon enough. And Kat is once again able to use gravity to freely traverse around the floating structures. The game takes place in a new city called Jirga Para Lao, a floating city where social issues are rampant, centered on the oppression of the poor by the ruling class. It's not revolutionary, but it does a good job of getting you invested in the struggles while introducing you to a new cast of characters. It's not long before Kat is pulled into the conflict to fight for what's right. Unlike the first game, Gravity Rush 2 doesn't carry the same weight of introducing this world, its politics, its floating islands, or the shadowy Nevi creatures. All of these things just exist, and the developers trust you to figure it out. The concept and themes are so universal that it's easy to wrap your head around even if you've never played the first game. What I found most interesting was learning about Kat, who she is and what drives her. She's witty and weird, but always likable, seeing the good in people and the bright side of any situation. Most of the plot is told through stylized comic book panels, similar to the first game, and thanks to the charming illustrations, it works well at holding your attention. They have this exaggerated hand-drawn style with slick transitions between the gameplay. While the overall plot feels like a loosely connected series of escalating adventures, it does a good job of answering open questions and giving you reasons to get out into this world. Not that you'll need much motivation. You'll explore the 4 districts of this large, open world that all look and feel unique, from slums to mansions and everything in between. Eventually, you'll return to Hexville, opening up a large second map with a lot of changes since Kat was there last time. Though you can return to your home in the sewers once again and can even spruce it up a bit. With over 20 main missions, 40 side missions, and tons of hidden collectibles, there's no shortage of things to do. Getting around the large maps to do all of the activities would be a chore if it wasn't for the fast travel. Oh yeah, and the game's main hook, gravity. Simply put, there's nothing that feels like Gravity Rush 2. Shifting the gravity to fly around the map, meeting new characters, and fighting enemies never gets old. If you've played the first game, this will feel familiar, at least at first. Tap R1 to release Cat from gravity's shackles, and tap again to send her hurtling in a direction. Flying in this game feels great.
That wasn't flying, that was falling with style.
Right. Yeah, it's actually an interesting take on movement, and one that remains uniquely enjoyable as you fall all over the map. If you hit a surface with gravity shifted, that becomes the new ground, letting you walk on walls or ceilings, which is always fun. At any point, you can restore gravity to normal, often surprising you with which direction is actually down. The core gravity mechanic is similar to the first game. However, the developer smartly expanded the system with 2 new gravity styles that you can swap to at any time, adding more depth to the problem solving and combat. Lunar style reduces the pull of gravity, making Cat lighter, letting her move faster and jump higher. Jupiter style is just the opposite, increasing gravity to make Cat heavier, which is particularly handy in combat for smashing enemies with greater oomph. Cat's powers already felt great, but these additions really make this system shine. And swapping between the forms by swiping or tapping the touchpad became second nature almost immediately. Balancing out these powerful abilities is this gauge that limits how long you can control gravity. While it's plentiful and refills quickly, you have to manage it carefully. If you run out when over an abyss, you can tumble to your death. Or in combat, you can be temporarily unable to use your more powerful abilities. Now the gameplay isn't all floating and falling. Often you'll need to fight, with the gravity mechanics baked right into the combat. You can get up close and personal, chaining together combos on the ground, but things really open up when you throw a little gravity into the mix. The gravity kick turns Cat into a homing missile, targeting enemies with her foot, and when charged up, you can damage the surrounding enemies. Stasis Field allows you to gather up debris into a large ball and hurl it, becoming an effective way to manage enemies at a distance. On top of the vastly different movements, each gravity style has its own suite of attacks for dispatching different enemy types. Use the lunar form to instantly teleport to quick flying enemies and unleash a barrage of rapid wormhole kicks. Or use Jupiter to land on the ground with a devastating charge surge, sending out a shockwave damaging everything in its area of effect. Fighting in this game just feels cool, although at times you'll be at the mercy of the camera, which can be your fiercest foe. Fellow gravity shifter Raven, who appeared as an antagonist for most of the first game, joins you at times for some team battles. The shadowy Nevi return from the first game. Nevi can only be hurt by targeting their glowing weak points. A couple of new types protect their weak points or have armor that needs to be destroyed first. The most common enemies are the humans, equipped with guns, flying ships, and even hulking mechs. Boss fights, while impressive in scale, are often mechanically a bit too simple, and unfortunately don't force you to use your gravity in interesting ways. They're more or less bigger versions of common enemies, where you'll kick or throw objects at their weak points until they're defeated. The excellent traversal is made all the more fun by the rewarding exploration. Gems for upgrading Cat are littered everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Sometimes it's a head scratcher figuring out how to get to them, but always worth it. And that's not all. There's a ton of collectibles, secrets, activities, and side missions found all over the open world. From solving mysteries to racing, deliveries, stealth missions, and more, the variety seems almost endless, and you'll get all sorts of goodies for engaging in these activities. Usually with more gems or talismans that can be equipped to enhance Cat's already impressive powers. You can equip up to 3 at a time for passive bonuses. Later in the game, you're able to combine or break down talismans to beef up their effectiveness. The races are a tough but fun challenge, having you flex your gravitational muscles, becoming one with the course. Some feel almost impossible at first, but after running through a course a few times, you get into that zen state and realize
there is no spoon.
You can descend into special mining areas that act as dungeons, filled with enemies, maybe even a boss, but also ore deposits. By breaking open these deposits, you'll get gems for upgrading skills and can also find more talismans. The only types of missions that wear thin are those with forced stealth. Sometimes you have to sneak around a soldier-filled base and avoid their sightlines, or maybe trail a suspicious character to gather intel. These brief missions aren't all that tough, But since you instantly fail if you're spotted, they can become more frustrating than fun. There were a number of asynchronous online elements that are no longer available. This included things like challenging ghosts of other players in races, online ranking, and treasure hunts which allowed you to find treasures using photos left by other players. It's a real shame considering how fun these additions were, but also how much bigger and more connected they made the world feel. Apparently I wasn't alone. There was a loud social media campaign protesting the shutdown of these servers. And while the fans were able to stall the shutdown, they were ultimately unsuccessful and the servers were shut down just 18 months after launch. It's worth noting that you can play through the entire game, and all trophies are available even with this shutdown, but some of the treasures are now lost to time. Director Keiichiro Toyama stresses immersion with Gravity Rush 2. Toyama says the key to this is expanding the universe and making Kat and her surroundings feel more alive. It's easy to see the fingerprints of this design philosophy with little touches that breathe life into the world. From those former online elements to the organic reactions of the city dwellers to what Kat does. There's also a lot of focus on connecting the side missions to the overarching story, revealing more dimension to seemingly minor characters, and giving you a deeper understanding of the big picture. One that's beautifully presented. Simply flying around the world is captivating in its own right, but it's such a treat to experience this world, bursting with color and character, doubling down on the first game's strong Studio Ghibli-esque visuals. Each of the many districts feel unique and always fun to explore. The impressive draw distance reveals the epic scale of the large floating cityscapes. Even with the scale, the frame rate holds steady most of the time, with a few dips during particularly hectic combat sections. Kat flies with an awkward grace, feeling unlike anything else, with an undeniable sense of freedom. And if you want to deck Kat out in the best attire, you're in luck, with different costumes you can unlock. There's a pretty decent photo mode, letting you capture and save the vistas and characters in first or third person. You can adjust filters and even add props to the photos. The game still uses a type of gibberish for its dialogue, which can be a bit strange, but the voice actors do a nice job of conveying the character emotions.
Silova Nova Hilario as Levi. Plessis Nova Chatu B O plus knowing.
The controller also emits sound effects during the game, and while this is fairly common today, it was really novel when the game came out. Kohei Tanaka, who worked on the music for Gravity Rush, returned to compose the music for Gravity Rush 2, creating another delightfully whimsical score. This is the type of game that drives you to do everything, and thankfully there's a lot to do. For completionists, getting all the trophies is pretty easy. As soon as activities unlock, I recommend tackling them right away, particularly the mining activities. Trust me, this will prevent a lot of grinding later. Now, side missions may go away even if they're not done, but fear not, they'll be available later as nothing's actually missable. Now, once the credits roll for the first time, there's still a lot more game to play. All in, you should expect 40 to 45 hours to do everything. And what an awesome time, too. Clearly, I love this game, but I'm not alone. Gravity Rush 2 received a lot of praise, getting put on many Best of and Game of the Year lists for 2017, as well as receiving a handful of industry awards, and earning a respectable 80 on Metacritic. But it hardly sold at all, with only about 100,000 in Japan and very few anywhere else. It's clear why there aren't tons of sequels, and why it's likely you've never played this game yourself. Gravity Rush 2 is almost certainly destined to be lost to time, a sequel that takes the fantastic premise of its predecessor and expands on it without losing what made the original so magical. A beautiful world with unique mechanics and likable characters that should have lit the world on fire, but sadly hasn't, and likely never will. Okay, there's Gravity Rush 2. If you liked the video, hit like and of course subscribe. And if you want another game that you haven't played, check out my video right here. I want to thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.